Please welcome Dave Densmore.
Well, I was thinking earlier this winter about not so much mortality, but about life, how funny it is, how we get born, we turn into teenagers and young men and women, and we think we're bulletproof, and then pretty soon we have kids of our own, and we start breaking down, and they start thinking they're bulletproof. And I got to thinking, I've had a love affair with fish all my life, and especially salmon. And to me, salmon epitomizes the life cycle, and so this little poem just kind of popped right out of it, simply called Circle of Life. The circle of life goes round as she fights her way upstream, giving her life to give life, her one sustaining dream. The eggs drop, the sperm comes to bring the magical life. Snow flies, winter passes, and spring, life renewal running rife. The fingerling starts downstream, destination unknown but sure. Birds of prey, rocks and turbulence, dangers ahead, so much more. Finally, all the while gaining, morphing, she reaches a deep and nurturing sea, and the arc of the circle continues as it was always meant to be. Far offshore she runs, feeding, growing, gaining strength, until her biological clock tells her to turn around at length. So homeward calls, and she starts that long trek back home, the circle of life to compete, as in a living poem. Through the ocean she runs, dodging predators, hook and net, the urge to return home, as strong as it can get. Oh, she leaps for sheer joy, flashing silver in the sun. Somehow, she just knows the closing of the circle has begun. The home stream unerringly found after so many long and arduous miles, and upstream she struggles against the currents, swift and wild. The circle of life closes. Again the cycle goes around, nest built, sperm flows, as her eggs rain softly down. Thank you. That's my salute to what we all love and pursue. And fishermen have been painted. I started writing poetry about fishing and fishermen because we got so much bad press and we were being demonized, and I kept thinking, somebody's got to speak up for us. I said that in the mirror one too many times. But that's what I'm trying to say right there is most all of us, there's renegades everywhere, but most all of us have a reverence and a love of the fish we pursue. Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the sermon. This next one is, I grew up out in the Aleutian Islands, and things were a lot different in those days. By the time I was 15, I had spoken for a house. Canry offered to buy me a boat, and had my eye on a pretty little girl. It didn't go that way, but that's all right. But it was a different time, and it was accepted. So I wrote, this is just simply called A Different Time. Hot, stuffy classroom, kids all adding and subtracting like they should. I couldn't understand the captivity and doubted that I ever would. Why didn't they just tell me how numbers could help me from being cheated, and knowing how to spell would make me look good when writing the loan app was needed? But instead, they droned on day after day with no reason given I could understand. Meanwhile, time just disappeared like steam rising off sun-warmed beach sand. While the teachers talked the same old talk, I dreamed of warm web loft, hanging net, or out hunting seal with Dad, or the boat running in to make a set. I didn't care about the ABCs. I already knew nets and how to mend and hang, and I could run a skiff and hunt and shoot as well as any man. Hell, I'd walk for miles along the beaches hunting seals, ducks, and geese, Searched round lakes and climbed cliffs picking eggs when spring brought its sweet release. The winter I was 9, I hunted alone because Dad was too sick to provide. Just knew I had all I needed to get along in my world and survive. No, I couldn't understand my captivity. I figured I had all the skills I should. So I'd just draw boats, lost in a dream. Guess that's why my grades were never very good. But my mother found me out, and so my books I had to carry home. Spelling, arithmetic, and all the rest. Double duty schooling I resented to the bone. Still had to do all my chores, wood box to fill, kindling to split, and those water buckets seemed to leak. And it all needed doing every blessed night of the week. Then by kerosene lamp I cracked the books. Not much time left for fun, because with my mother standing guard, another night of school had begun. You know, that darn spelling book wasn't much good. Once tried it inside my pants when I knew a spanking was on the way. But it gave me away with a mighty thud. Oh, how it got there I couldn't say. But I finally figured out how to beat the deal and would sneak my shotgun out to school. Then just get up and leave when I got bored. Off hunting I'd go, already living by my own rule. You know, my grades didn't suffer. In fact, they improved, because I'd figured out how to play it smart and loose. I'd simply stop by the teacher's house and drop off a duck or goose. True story. This next one I wrote, I was thinking, I've been a long time on the trail. And I remember when I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I remember it vaguely. I was thinking about how we're perceived. Watch some old man. I remember there was an old guy who used to come hobbling down to the dock when I was trolling out of the West End Basin a long time ago. He didn't have a boat anymore. He was just some little old man standing there watching the boats go, but I found out that he had once been a highline troller. And I got to thinking about that, and so I wrote this perception. 3 wives. Wife number 1, gray hair and sparkling eyes belied, a long life lived full and well. She had a story of long ago that she so loved to tell, about a handsome boy man, her first love, though not her last. Now the memories are simply fond. The hurt and pain didn't last. His laughter and daring do both on and off the football field. A flashing smile, everyone's hero, stole her heart, broke through her shield. Leather jacket and motorcycles, oh, he is a wild one for sure. Fast cars with loud exhaust. In the back seat, so much more. Then married right out of high school. Of course, they were far too young. But until the reality of life hit home, playing house sure was fun. A fisherman and the son of, he fished hard and played the same. She suspected that domestic life was simply much too tame. Oh, how she tried to tame him. A sweet home and love given free. But so much stronger were distant ports in his life on the rolling sea. Wife number 2. She'd married him out of admiration. He seemed to live life with such flair. A highly successful fisherman skipper. They made a handsome pair. He loved fast, fancy cars, and their house in the hill was the best around. When he was home, always a party, home full of laughter, fun, sound. As a fisherman, he was gone a lot, doing what it took to do so well. Their honeymoons were exciting, but the absences were pure hell. Finally, the gulf just got too wide. She couldn't do the roller coaster ride anymore. Knew she'd miss the broad shoulders and sexy smile, but still, he went out the door. Wife number 3. The old man was down at the tavern again, telling old stories with his boring old friends. She guessed he might have been a hotshot once, but time had sure brought that to an end. Oh, he'd sit for hours with old shipmates telling boring stories of days gone by. Didn't have much to say to her, and if she said she cared, guess she'd lie. His silver hair and friendly smile had briefly turned her head. But he was old. She didn't want to be. Sometimes almost wished he was dead. She heard about all the fast bikes and flashy cars and big hauls of fish brought in. She usually turned away and got real busy whenever a story was about to begin. Why, she couldn't even imagine him on a Harley, and fancy cars a far cry from his old truck. Might have been a mining fisherman once, but all she saw was an old man out of luck. That same man, once proud and strong, but doesn't time change how we're perceived? Maybe old, stove gray and bent, but that same wild heart still beats inside of me. A couple of years ago, there was this damn kid come up to me and said, "Hey, how you doing, old timer?" He damn near got himself knocked on his ass, but he'd been my daughter's boyfriend, so I kind of let it slide. But this year in Kodiak, somebody come up and told me they thought I was the oldest seining skipper in Kodiak, still working. Well, I don't know how that happened. I still think I'm the kid. But anyway, so I wrote this kind of as an answer to that, called Long Traveled Man. I'm refusing to grow old. I'm just a young man that's traveled far. It seems I've danced with a devil who sent his demons with me to spar. Yeah, I've been down some rocky roads, only saved from disaster by amazing grace. And the ever-present knowledge that in the end, it'd be myself I'd have to face. Sure, this body's wearing out, and time's left its scars on my face, but the spirit of youth burns on. Some things even time can't erase. Oh, there's been heartache and success. I've seen both the highs and the lows. Been times I wished I could stay, and times I couldn't wait to go. The trail of life stretches long behind and grows ever shorter out ahead. But I'll not change the way I am just because old is a number, someone said. No, there really feels no difference between 70 and 30. Where is the magic number when lusty becomes obscene and dirty? Yeah, fast cars and pretty women, roaring bikes and rock and roll. Where's the rule that says I must forget, stop and grow gracefully old? I'm not an old man simply trying to recapture the feeling of being forever young. No, I'm just a long-traveled man doing what I've always done. So if I'm off on some adventure, it seems I'm chasing a distant star, how I'm just that same young man that's simply traveled far. You know, as fishermen, if you dedicate your life to this industry, and most people in it do, we give so much, but at the same time, it's so rewarding. But I've been doing it all my life. By the time I was 12, I was getting a full share on a seine boat run skiff. I bought my first boat when I was 13, and put a lot of water under a keel. So I wrote this. This is for all fishermen, and as far as I'm concerned, fisherman is not gender specific. You're a man or woman. If you're working on deck, you're taking the knocks, you're a fisherman. So this is for all of us, all of you, called As the Net Slipped Off the Stern. I've lived my life on deck and bridge. From water, watch the seasons turn. So many changes come and gone as a net slipped off the stern. I once was young and bulletproof. That fallacy I'd yet to learn. But time flew by on silent wings as a net slipped off the stern. Loves have come and loves have gone, though I never meant to burn. Yet changes came unbidden as the net slipped off the stern. Children came, grew and left. That love I never meant to spurn. Just lived life as best I could as the net slipped off the stern. Slip from youth through middle age, find there's still much for which I yearn, but time's caught up, and I've grown old as the net slipped off the stern. Oh, I'm not bitter or disappointed with the cards I've been dealt. Oh, wait a minute, that's, sorry about that, wrong page. Yes, I've spun out my life on pitch and deck and watched as life's seasons turned. So many changes come and gone as the net slipped off the stern. One last poem, and then I'll get out of here. I've thought a lot about the end of the trail. I don't dread it. I don't care. It's all comes to all of us. But I find that if you talk about it and think about it once in a while, just take it out and look at it. Nothing there to be worried about. So I wrote this summer sometime called Finish. As I approach the end of the trail, mortality sometimes comes to mind. Well, I just have one request, if the gods truly be just and kind. I don't really crave a heaven. Oh, I surely don't want a hell. I think eternal sleep forever would just do me quite well. Now, I don't care to walk on fluffy clouds or hear celestial voices sing. I'd prefer to simply cease to exist, never more cope with anything. This life's walk I've walked is enough. I don't really need a hereafter. I've actually lived and felt enough. Simply being done wouldn't really even matter. Oh, I'm not bitter or disappointed with the cards I've been dealt. I've had pain, but I've had joy, and a generous share of love I've felt. A woman's caress, a baby's kiss. Such things have made my heart sing. Sunrise and sets, life on the ocean. Doesn't feel I've missed a single thing. Sure, I hope there's a lot more life ahead. Pain and pleasures yet to taste. But dwelling on my coming end is time I simply don't care to waste. When I go, I'll go content with a life lived full and sweet. So endless sleep would work just fine, 'cause my life I've tried to live complete. Thank you.
Okay, this comes to close the end of day one of the FisherPoets gathering. And I'd like to once again thank Dave Densmore for that wonderful last reading. Let's give him a round of applause. And Wayne and I are co-MCs. We'd like to thank you guys for being a great audience and enjoying the Fish Poet. And remember that contest tomorrow night? It all starts tomorrow. Get a schedule and check out everything. And thank you guys all for coming. And thank the volunteers, too. Thank you all.